Bathing with Unmarried Aunt Lily. Evenings by the seaside countryside were always peaceful and quiet, unlike the noisy hustle of the city back home. The villagers here were simple and straightforward, true to their rural roots. At night, the men would gather in small groups, sipping rice wine with rustic snacks like pickled fruits, eels, or fish caught from the river. It seemed every man and boy knew how to drink. Even young Ben, at just 17, was a devoted follower of the bottle. If he didn't have a few sips in a day, he'd feel as limp as a flag without wind. He probably wanted to prove the saying, "A man without wine is like a flag without wind," right, ever since arriving at his grandparents' house. Alex had been trailing after Ben like a shadow. Ben was quiet and reserved, but he had all sorts of handy skills. The kites he made always flew higher and farther than anyone else's, not to mention his talent for setting traps and fishing. In short, Alex was utterly smitten with his new dirt-clawed friend. Sometimes he'd spend the whole day at Ben's house, eating, sleeping, and playing together. At that awkward age, not quite a child, but not yet an adult, he was still full of playful energy. There were evenings when he'd get so caught up playing at Ben's that by the time he checked the clock, it was too late to head home. Too lazy to make the trek, he'd jump into bed with Ben, hug him tight, and sleep until morning before dashing back. Ben's father was Uncle Ted. His real name was Ted, but since he'd lost a leg, people called him Ted the Cripple to distinguish him from other Teds in the village. Despite the missing limb, he swam and dove like an otter and was the best boatman around. The only issue was he loved booze more than his wife. Without a few cups each night, he'd pick fights with her and the kids. Strangely, though he craved drink, he couldn't hold much. A few shots and he'd pass out, snoring away. He didn't have the habit of rambling drunken nonsense or cursing like others. Tonight was no different. Alex set down his bowl after shoveling in the last grains of rice, stood up, grabbed some water to drink, and called out casually, "I'm heading over to Ben's to play, Grandma." Without waiting for a response, he bolted out the yard toward his new friend's house. His grandma just shook her head and told Daisy to clear the dishes. Evenings in the countryside were truly serene. It was just past 8 p.m., but the sky was already twinkling with stars. Not a single dark cloud, giving a sense of wide-open freshness and joy. Alex looked up at the sky, inhaling deeply as the cool breeze filled his lungs. Ben's house wasn't too far, but not as close as city homes where everything was crammed together. To get there, he had to cross a fairly deserted path, and at night, the sounds of insects and frogs croaking sent chills down his spine. Alex quickened his pace, stepping lightly. Ben's front gate was already locked, but no problem, the back gate was always open. Alex knew Ben usually hung out in the back house, rarely upstairs, and right now, he was probably poring over those comic books he'd sneaked past his parents. As he entered, he heard Aunt Hailey, Ben's mom, call out, "Is that you, Alex?" Ben just stepped out for an errand. "Sit and wait a bit." "Okay." Alex sat down, glancing around. Ben's family was poor, so they didn't have much. An old 14-inch local TV that flickered on and off, a beat-up motorbike from the dinosaur era, no fridge or computer. Aunt Hailey was nearing 40 but looked young since she only had one child. She exuded the gentle, honest vibe of a southern woman, plump figure, round white arms, a rosy face, and thick eyebrows. She usually wore traditional BA outfits, saving AO dye for special occasions or trips. Tonight, she was in a purple floral BA top with black pants, her skin peeking through the sides in a way that caught Alex's eye. He stared discreetly. This woman looked quite appealing. The thin fabric didn't hide much of her alluring curves. Unaware of his gaze, Aunt Hailey turned her back to cook. It turned out Ben's family hadn't eaten yet. Alex watched her from behind, shifting sides, feeling restless. Suddenly, Aunt Hailey went out back to the large clay jar where they kept fish, bending over to catch one for dinner. Her bent posture was too much for anyone to resist. Without thinking, Alex rushed up behind her and acted boldly. Aunt Hailey startled, about to scream, but felt a strange sensation. It was Alex, of course, who else? No wonder she'd felt eyes on her earlier. How daring of him. She stood up after he fled, adjusting her clothes, thinking, that kid's got guts, messing with me like that. Compared to her drunken husband, Alex seemed skilled. Scary how good he is at his age. After his bold move with Ben's mom, Alex ran home like he was being chased by ghosts. The brief thrill faded into vague fear. He dreaded Aunt Hailey telling his grandparents about his misconduct. He'd get a beating and wish the ground would swallow him. How could a strong teen like him lust after a woman old enough to be his mother? But in his shoes, anyone might understand. By the time he got home, the family was watching TV, some old opera or something. Daisy was in a short, thin pink nightgown, glued to the screen. She loved operas and wouldn't sleep until they ended. Alex sneaked into his room, jumped into bed, and slept until morning. When the sun was high and people were calling each other to the fields, he was still buried under the blankets. Not because he wasn't awake, but because he didn't want to be. He feared running into Aunt Hailey, worried she'd snitch to Grandma about his rudeness. He couldn't hide forever, though. There was a knock and Grandma's voice. Alex, get up. Wash your face and freshen up. Watch the house while Grandpa, Daisy, and I go to the market to buy food. Your Aunt Lily will be visiting soon. Hearing Aunt Lily was coming made him forget his worries with Aunt Hailey. Aunt Lily, 24, was a middle school teacher in the city district. She adored him and always brought gifts when he was little. It had been ages since he'd seen her, so the news filled him with eager anticipation. He jumped up, folded the blankets neatly, and did his morning routine. Mornings in the countryside were peaceful and quiet. Cool breezes from the river made everything refreshing. Unlike the city, people didn't lock doors tightly, houses stayed wide open, even late at night, with no thefts. Alex paced the front yard, glancing out for Grandma and Daisy. Why are they taking so long today? And where's Aunt Lily? He wondered about Daisy too, how she was adjusting, sleeping well in this new place. Thinking of her led back to Aunt Hailey. Alex grabbed a tea set to wash, hearing clattering sounds. Out back, Aunt Lily was struggling with a big basket of gifts for her parents. As always, she came loaded with goodies, and of course, something for him too. Here, let me carry that, Alex said eagerly, taking it from her. Aunt Lily eyed him from head to toe and chuckled. Whoa, look at my nephew all grown up. You look like quite the man now. She dragged out man, making him blush. Embarrassed, he avoided her eyes, bent to grab the basket, and hurried inside. Aunt Lily stepped in, looking around. Where are Mom and Dad? And Daisy? Grandpa's in the fields, Grandma and Daisy are at the market, he replied, still not meeting her gaze. Seeing his sneaky, red-faced look, she knew exactly what was on his mind, typical teenage boy. As she scanned him, she thought, goodness, Alex has really grown up. Quite the man. Aunt Lily sat straight on a folding chair, closing her eyes briefly. Alex stood nearby, now daring to look at her face. Of course, she knew he was staring. Her face was slightly flushed, sweat beading on her forehead like dew. Her hair cascaded softly over her shoulders, lashes long and curved, lips pink and full, nose straight and elegant. Her arms were round and white. Alex's eyes were glued to her dress. Aunt Lily knew what he was thinking, and indeed, few boys could resist her poses. She knew she was beautiful, with a perfect body. She'd often admired herself in the mirror, proud of her fair skin and long, slender legs. Everything about her was lovely from head to toe. Suddenly, she stood and lay down on the daybed by the window, where cool garden breezes blew in. Face down, back up, she called out, my back hurts so much. Do you know how to massage? Give me one, I'm exhausted from the trip from Saigon. Alex, as if waiting for the cue, didn't let her finish before sitting on the bed's edge and starting. Aunt Lily's eyes closed slightly. While Alex didn't care if she was truly tired or just leading him on. His fingers wriggled like snakes on her back, pleasing her. It was past 9 a.m., usually, Grandma and Daisy would be back from the market by now, but today they were late. No matter, at that moment, both aunt and nephew hoped the shoppers took even longer. The bed was by the window. From inside, you could see everything outside, but from out, the whitewashed wall blocked the view. After about 10 minutes of massage, the two scrambled up as Grandma and Daisy returned. Aunt Lily was dressed neatly. They all went out back to wash up, comb their messy hair, then headed upstairs. Aunt Lily casually asked, Mom, what took you so long at the market?" "I was waiting forever," her elderly mother, carrying a full basket of food, handed it over without looking. "I knew you were coming, so I bought extra goodies." Before finishing, she was already in the kitchen, typical hardworking woman. Daisy trailed behind, sneaking glances at Aunt Lily. She noticed Aunt Lily acting odd, fidgety like a new bride. Face flushed like she'd been drinking. "Is she drunk?" After lunch, the family gathered around the long table in the main room for tea and chat. Grandpa, over 60, still looked strong and fit, short but sturdy, the picture of a lifelong farmer, not some idle old man. His hair was salt and pepper. Grandma, in her 50s, had a balanced figure, skin like baked honey, while Daisy busied herself clearing dishes out back. Grandpa puffed on his water pipe, holding a strong, bitter tea, standing on the porch. He sipped, gazing at the fields, muttering something inaudible. Inside, Grandma sat in her rocking chair, chewing betel nut, eyeing her daughter. "Lily, you're all grown up now. Not a kid anymore. If you find a good man, bring him home to meet us and think about marriage. You don't want to stay single forever, do you?" Lily whined playfully, glancing slyly at Alex. "But Mom, I don't want to marry yet. Being single is fun." Alex, sitting opposite, chimed in, "Yeah, Aunt Lily, why marry and suffer? Stay single and enjoy life." He dragged out the words teasingly, making her laugh. Annoyed, she tossed a fan at him. "I'm going to nap, stop teasing me with Alex." She hurried out back. Grandma, seeing her daughter's flushed face, assumed it was embarrassment about marriage talk and smiled understandingly. Once in her room, Lily lightly closed the door, lay down, arm over her forehead, lost in thought. The morning's events replayed like slow-motion film. She hadn't expected to be so lenient with Alex. She'd never imagined doing that with her own nephew. On the bus ride home, someone had slipped her some drug, making her feel floaty. Luckily, she'd escaped. This trip was just to visit parents and neighbors after a long absence. She hadn't anticipated nearly losing control right at home, reuniting with Alex so unexpectedly. Whatever the bus attendant gave her made her crave a man's touch. Leading to what happened. Meanwhile, out back, Alex lay on a hammock in the shady garden, unable to sleep. He recalled Aunt Lily's soft, white skin, like a fresh young girl's. It was divine. But no, he couldn't think that way. She was his aunt, morals forbade it. He had to banish those wicked thoughts. Unable to bear it, he rushed to the bathroom, locked the door, and splashed water to cool his impure ideas. He hated himself, dousing his face to snap out of it. Then he returned to the hammock, lay down, and quickly fell asleep. That evening, the sky was beautiful, stars twinkling brightly. Cool breezes dispersed the lingering afternoon heat. After dinner, Grandpa had Daisy spread an old mat in the brick yard out front, inviting neighbors for tea and world news chat. Inside, Grandma and Daisy were glued to a Korean drama on TV. Grandma wiped tears at poignant scenes but laughed heartily at funny ones. Aunt Lily busied herself alone in the back kitchen, cooking lotus seed porridge, a favorite of her parents. Alex didn't care for tea or Korean dramas. Normally, before Aunt Lily arrived, he'd dash to Ben's to play with friends. But today, he wanted to stay home. Seeing no one paying attention, he sneaked to the kitchen. Aunt Lily was alone, fussing over the fragrant porridge, tasting and seasoning, unaware of him behind her. The kitchen was separated from the main house by a waist-high wall. From the main area, you could see someone cooking but not below. As Alex set cups on a tray to help, Aunt Lily seized the moment to explain the morning mishap, hoping he'd understand and not misjudge her. And when you take Daisy back to the city, watch her, don't let her drink from strangers." Just then, they heard Grandma's slippers slapping and her voice calling, "What are you doing in there, Lily?" Grandma appeared at the wall. "Scoop some porridge for everyone, it's done. Go take a bath to cool off, it's so hot." Aunt Lily headed to the bath, leaving Grandma shaking her head. "That girl, just a bit in the kitchen and she's complaining about the heat." Alex now understood and stopped blaming himself. These past days, Ben felt deeply sad. Why hadn't Alex come over like when he first arrived? Maybe Alex was bored of rural games like fishing, kite flying, or marbles. City boys like him probably found them unappealing. Ben pondered this alone, feeling down, but if Ben was sad, his mom Aunt Hailey was twice as much. Since Alex's bold act that evening, she'd thought about him more. She'd listened toward Grandpa's house, wondering what he was up to. Sometimes she wanted to tell Ben to invite him over but felt awkward and stayed quiet. Strangely, though unprepared, Alex had made her feel ecstasy she'd missed for ages. Before bed each night, Uncle Ted had his habitual cup of wine, then passed out uselessly. Aunt Hailey was still in her prime, full of desires. Alex, young and vigorous, was top-notch, like the saying at 17, even a buffalo's horns itch. Impressive for his age, daring to mess with someone his mother's age. Aunt Hailey wondered but found no answer, seeing Ben's gloomy face, often glancing toward Alex's house. Aunt Hailey knew he missed his friend. If he knew Alex avoided them because of what happened with her, what would he think? She casually asked, "Ben, why hasn't Alex come over lately? You two fighting?" Ben, looking deflated, replied, "No, Mom. We're not mad. He's probably busy." Mid-sentence, he wandered to the garden, climbed the hammock under the guava tree, and lay thinking, arm over forehead. Aunt Hailey felt sorry seeing her son so down. He was gentle as a lump of clay, quiet and withdrawn, few kids played with him. Since Alex arrived, Ben had perked up, talking and laughing more. But now, without visits, he was back to being sullen. Ben wore faded shorts, lying with one leg on the hammock, one dangling, swaying gently. He held a book Aunt Hailey couldn't make out, but he read intently, pausing occasionally to close it and glance at her accusingly. She pretended not to notice and kept reading the rustling pages in the quiet summer afternoon. Aunt Hailey sat picking water spinach on the porch, just steps from the guava hammock, able to observe Ben's every move. Suddenly, she startled, "Oh no, Ben's grown up." She'd need to buy him new underwear soon. That night, after dinner, Ben went to bed early. Uncle Ted, as usual, skipped food for solo drinking, soon passing out. His wife called Ben to help drag him to their bamboo bed. Tonight, Aunt Hailey couldn't sleep. Glancing at Uncle Ted, she felt disheartened. He was out like a light, useless. What good is a husband like this? Noon that day, Ben held a book with hidden pictures inside, stuff Alex had brought from the city and slipped to him, saying, "Check this out." Until now, Ben had no clue about man-woman stuff. His mind was blank. The only woman he knew closely was his mom. Those internet-sourced images, Western, Chinese, mostly Japanese, were explicit, turning his innocent page colorful. After family dinner, Ben lay in bed, mind racing. He decided to head to Alex's to share what he'd learned. Alex's house was lit. It looked like Aunt Lily in the dim light. Sneaking a peek from behind, Ben felt dazed, a dark thought forming. When Alex's family was in bed, lights out, Ben lurked outside, hidden by corn stalks. Peering in. A night prowler expert from fishing, his eyes were cat-sharp, ears keen. He clearly heard Aunt Lily's rapid breaths and restless tossing. When soft moans escaped her lips with rustling clothes, he strained to see more. Losing control, he rushed in. Consequences be damned. Aunt Lily, half asleep, felt a man from nowhere. Thinking it a dream, she dreamed nightly of a man beside her. She responded passionately. This was her best dream yet. But then she realized it wasn't. Who is it? Is that you, too? Ben panicked, grabbed his pants, and bolted out the yard, through banana bushes, over the fence, across fields, straight home. From then on, Ben avoided Alex's house. 2 days later, Alex headed to Ben's, feeling the path endlessly long today. Usually, a few skips and he'd be there. He didn't realize he was walking slowly because he dreaded facing Aunt Hailey. But slow or not, he arrived. Ben's house was even quieter at noon, the summer heat keeping everyone indoors. Even dogs and cats sought shade. Being poor, few visited. Truly, wealth draws crowds, poverty brings isolation. Seeing the front door shut tight, Alex circled to the back. Familiar with the layout, he entered. No one around, he considered leaving but paused at odd sounds echoing in the house. Soft moans reached his ears. Who's that? He scanned, no one. Then he noticed the parents' bedroom door closed, unusual. Curious, he tiptoed over and peeked in. Oh my God, the sight inside stunned him. Aunt Hailey was alone in there. After days of fear, this changed everything. His mind raced to Aunt Hailey, Ben's mom, plotting how to conquer this ripe woman. The next noon, with the family napping, Alex sneaked to Ben's. He prayed Ben wasn't home, and luck struck. Ben had just left with lunchboxes for Uncle Ted, who was guarding fish at Mrs. Thursday's hut in the village. He stayed out midday, so Ben delivered meals. Hearing Alex, Aunt Hailey greeted warmly, seeming to have forgotten his prior boldness. Looking for Ben? He just went to the fish hut, he'll be back soon. Sit and wait. She busied with post-lunch dishes, carrying them to the kitchen. Alex sat watching her from behind. Today, Aunt Hailey looked especially enticing in tight black pants and a snug baba top. He swallowed hard, pulled out his phone. An idea formed. He waited until she finished and entered the house, then stood as if leaving. I was gonna give Ben something, but he's not here. I'll head back, Aunt Hailey. As he turned, she asked curiously, what is it? Can I see? She had no idea she'd fallen into his trap. Smiling inwardly but serious outwardly, he said, sure, but promise not to tell anyone. He pulled her to sit, stood behind, arms around her, and played the video he'd secretly recorded of her alone the previous night. Her initial cheer vanished, replaced by shock, worry, and nervousness. She turned, stammering, Where did this come from? Alex smirked. Doesn't matter. The point is, I'll show this to Ben and Uncle Ted. Aunt Hailey grabbed his arm, near tears. Don't, Alex. Please delete it. I'll do anything. Seeing her plea, Alex grinned inside. Hand on her shoulder, he whispered, remember what you said. Tonight, meet me by the banyan tree near the river. Come early. He turned and left. Don't be late, Aunt. Only after he was gone did Aunt Hailey slump, whispering, oh God. That evening, Alex gulped a few bites of rice, set down his chopsticks. I'm sleeping over at Ben's tonight. Grandma. It's been ages. Before finishing, he was out the gate. Grandparents just shook heads. The night sky was windy and cool, clear with twinkling stars, romantic and poetic. Alex hurried to the silently flowing river. The banyan tree by the bank loomed. He arrived early, with half an hour to spare. Frog and insect choruses in the misty night chilled him, but thoughts of possessing a vibrant woman like Aunt Hailey steadied him. Bored, he paced around the ancient tree, tossing stones into the river. Tired, he leaned against it, checking his phone for the video of Aunt Hailey. Suddenly, dry leaves crunched, someone approaching lightly. It was her. Eager, he couldn't wait, he rushed forward. Whispering, over here. Hurry, Aunt Hailey, walking slowly, was yanked forward, stumbling into him. Alex seized the moment to flirt. You look beautiful tonight. I can't resist. Flattered by the young compliment, her face beamed, but she feigned sternness. I'm old, what's beautiful about me? Delete that video, and I'll do anything. Alex, burning with youthful passion, took her words as consent. Why hesitate? Just this once, okay? No more. About 30 minutes later, as he prepared to leave, Aunt Hailey asked, "Wait, delete it from your phone. Please." Alex laughed. "Not yet. Keep it for a few more days, for next time." He chuckled mischievously and dashed off toward home. Left alone, Aunt Hailey mused absently, "Wonder when next time is?" But admit it, that was thrilling with Alex. She headed to the river to wash up and hurried home. Tonight, she'd sleep well after that satisfying encounter. One summer noon, the sun scorched like fire, no one wanted outside. Golden rice fields stretched eye-pleasingly, some harvested, leaving dry stubble. Uncle Ted waved his pole, herding ducks to peck fallen grains from cut fields. Shielding his wrinkled brow, he muttered, "Strange, it's past noon, and Ben hasn't brought lunch yet." Since taking the duck herding job, Uncle Ted stayed out daily. Ben or Aunt Hailey brought meals. But now, nearing 1 p.m., no one showed, making him irritable and hungry. As they say, an empty belly makes weak knees. Seeing the empty midday fields, he felt safe. Ignoring the ducks sifting muddy water for food, he hobbled home on his crutch. Arriving, the house was eerily empty, amplifying the gloom. The stove held cold rice from yesterday, no fresh cooking. Hastily washed bowls showed grease spots. Sour soup had dregs with tiny shrimp. Uncle Ted eyed the cold kitchen, disheartened. Lately, Aunt Hailey acted different, cheerful, rosy-cheeked, primping like a lovesick girl. But she wasn't a girl anymore. The cold stove enraged him. He knocked over the rice pot, tossed the soup pot into the side pond. Damn it, past noon and no food? Where'd she go? Cursing but starving, he rummaged. The rice bin was nearly empty, a few old instant noodle packs. He grabbed one, boiled water, and slurped it down. Mid-bite, kids yelled, "Uncle Ted! Get to the duck pond, your boss is yelling." Gulping noodles, he rushed out three-legged style. In the empty hut, Mrs. Thursday stood arms akimbo, fuming. "What kind of watching is this? Where were you? If thieves took my ducks, could you pay?" Uncle Ted meekly, "Sorry, Mrs. Thursday. I was starving, so I went home for a quick bite." "Ben didn't bring your lunch? Where is he?" "No idea." Mrs. Thursday softened slightly. "Well, pee break, I'm bursting." Who'd expect the boss to scold then admit needing to pee? Uncle Ted chuckled inwardly but stayed composed. "Go find a hidden spot outside." But the fields were open, who'd dare? Sensible, Uncle Ted stood, grabbed his crutch. "Fine, go in the hut. I'll wait outside, call when done." He stepped out into the harsh sun. The midday summer heat dizzied him, sunstroke or hunger? Mrs. Thursday, squatting inside, heard a thud. She stood, tied her pants, rushed out. Uncle Ted had fainted. Despite his frailty, he was a man. It took effort for her to drag him inside onto the torn mat. His face pale, lifeless, forehead cold. "Oh no, he's heat-struck." She pulled menthol oil and a coin from her pocket, scraping his back to revive him. Her soft fingers glided over his back. She glanced outside nervously. If seen together in the hut, rumors would fly. Luckily, midday emptiness. Whether from the scraping or her feminine scent, long absent, Uncle Ted felt floaty. An indescribable rush. Long since he'd been intimate with Aunt Hailey, not impotence as she thought, but lost interest. Yet near Mrs. Thursday, he felt youthful vigor. "What are you doing?" he asked, turning. "You fainted, I'm reviving you." Uncle Ted flipped over. "Sorry, at my age." Born with a leg defect, his arms were strong, and Uncle Ted was no exception. His strength overwhelmed Mrs. Thursday, her face flushing from white to red. At that moment, Mrs. Thursday didn't know why she yielded. Long since her husband touched her. Women deprived grow irritable, that's why she'd come to scold, out of frustration, not malice. Uncle Ted's wicked fingers drove her wild, her eyes glazed. But heaven doesn't favor forever. Just as he began, Ben's voice echoed from afar, "Dad? Where are you?" Uncle Ted snapped out of it. Mrs. Thursday sat up, fixed her clothes just as Ben entered. He was surprised to see her, expecting only his dad. Mrs. Thursday, flustered, said vaguely, "Tomorrow come to my house, I'll advance some money for rice. I was checking fields and stopped to see your work. I'm off." She left, lingering floatiness clouding her mind. Ben found her odd but not talkative, asked only, "How old is Mrs. Thursday, Dad?" Uncle Ted hadn't expected that. He didn't know why but answered, "Not sure, 45 or 46 maybe." Ben smirked inwardly, only he knew why. He'd seen her pants wet from behind when she stood. He clucked his tongue. Uncle Ted asked, "Is your mom home much lately?" "Lately? I've noticed she dresses up a lot, makes me do chores, goes out all day saying she's checking fields or your work." Uncle Ted suspected his wife. She never visited him, checked his work, or brought water/meals. Rarely before, none now. Could it be as he thought? But the village men were working. Who? Maybe overthinking. We'll ask her at home. 6 p.m. After returning ducks to Mrs. Thursday, she invited him in. "Come in, Uncle Ted." "Wait, I'll give extra money for rice." "No need, ma'am. I'm muddy and smelly, your fancy house, I'd dirty the tiles. I like your hardworking honesty. Want a little fun to unwind?" Mrs. Thursday slipped her shoulder from her shirt, winking. Uncle Ted salivated but thought of wife and son. Once hooked, hard to quit. "I'd love the money, as for that, tempting, but let me give it to my wife first. Take this, I'm in a good mood, extra $2. Remember, I'm waiting. Don't be scared." Money secure, Uncle Ted headed to the river to help Ben fold nets for an early return home. Unexpectedly, as father and son rode to the banyan spot, gigging frogs, both heard a woman's familiar moans. Uncle Ted smartly switched off the flashlight, signaling Ben to hush. Yes, that shirt was his wife's, no mistake. Creeping closer, he flashed the light on the man's face. Shamefully, his wife Aunt Hailey was directing. Ben recognized Alex instantly. "Alex? You bastard," Uncle Ted, furious, thought his wife was some stranger, who knew it was a snot-nosed kid. Humiliating. The couple argued loudly by the river. Luckily no neighbors, or Aunt Hailey and Alex would have fled the village. Aunt Hailey begged forgiveness, Alex ran like hell home. Next morning, he rushed back to the city. Ben hated Alex deeply, tossing the books he'd given into the river, no more friend. Aunt Hailey regretted, pleading with her husband repeatedly. Uncle Ted hadn't forgiven yet. She devoted more time, daily on-time meals, even insisting on staying at the Leaf Hut with him. He chased her off many times, undeterred, she clung like a leech. This time, Mrs. Thursday came to the hut seeking Uncle Ted's manly vigor. But the hut shook violently, women's sandals outside. Ah, his wife's. Mrs. Thursday heard, "Your husband's still strong, good for 30 more years. If any woman comes near, I'll scratch her face. That Mrs. Thursday is flirty, if she touches my husband, she'll know." Hearing her name sparked huge suspicion. Mrs. Thursday vowed no more with crippled Ted. She was high class, wealthy, plenty of options. Her shadow whipped away. Laughter echoed from the old couple. Pity the rickety hut, tomorrow he'd rebuild, as their weight and antics nearly collapsed it.